Hello all, and welcome to Behind the Scenes with your narrator Jay from the Drunk on the Pond podcast. If you're new here, then welcome. This series is about bringing players and their stories back to the light and giving them another chance to be heard. In this episode, we'll be talking about the man who was on the opposite side of history. You may know of the shot heard around the world, but what do you know of the man who threw the fastball on that fateful day? In this episode, we'll be deep diving into the man on the mound, our protagonist, Mr. Ralph Branca. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these stories and would like more, please make sure to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and comment who you would love to hear about. Baseball has had plenty of storied careers, and I'm going to do my absolute best to keep these coming. Now let's get into it. Ralph Theodore Joseph Branca was born on January 6, 1926 in Mount Vernon, New York, to parents John and Catherine. John worked various jobs, ranging from trolley car conductor to a barber to a machinist. His wife, Catherine, was a Jewish immigrant from Hungary. Ralph was the 15th out of 17 children, and you thought cheaper by the dozen was insane. Branca spent his elementary and high school years in Mount Vernon and graduated from A.B. Davis High School, or what is now known as Mount Vernon High School. He attended New York University, where he played both basketball and baseball. He only attended for 1 year before entering the big leagues for Brooklyn at the age of 17. The Dodgers sent him to a minor league affiliate where he pitched okay. Soon after, he was promoted to the Montreal Royals, the Dodgers' top farm team, where he managed a 4-5 record before being called up to the big leagues on June 7, 1944. I guess a 4-5 record was pretty good back then. He debuted on June 12th at the age of 18. He allowed 2 hits in 3 1/3 innings in a 15-9 loss to the New York Giants. He finished the 1944 season with a 7.05 earned run average and pitching 44 2/3 innings. 7.05 as an ERA it's not that good. During the 1945 season, Branca split time between Brooklyn and St. Paul of the American Association, where he managed some success, going 5-6 with a 3.04 earned run average and pitching 109 2/3 innings with the Dodgers. So he went from a 7.05 ERA in 1944 to a 3.04 in 1945, pretty much dropping his ERA a total of 4 points. Pretty respectable. In 1946, he pitched okay, winning only 3 games, but pitching well enough in September that Brooklyn made him the Game 1 starter against St. Louis in the playoffs. Unfortunately, they would end up losing the game 4-2. The 1947 season was one of remembrance, not only because it was Ralph's greatest season to this point, but because it was also the debut of the man who had broken the color barrier, number 42, Jackie Roosevelt Robinson. When some teammates refused to stand next to Robinson, Branca stood tall next to his teammate. Branca later in life was asked about Robinson, to which he said, and I quote, "He was a great competitor and a great teammate. The timing of bringing him to the team was perfect. I've always been proud that baseball integration beat the government's integration by 7 years and that I was a part of it." Good on you, Ralph. It was in 1947 that Branca saw his best season, ending it with a 21-12 record, a 2.67 earned run average, and pitching 280 innings. He made the All-Star team, and he helped the Dodgers win their first National League pennant. He pitched the first game of the 1947 World Series against the Yankees, in which the Yankees would go on to win the World Series in 7 games. At least it took them to the last game. The following years weren't as friendly to Branca, unfortunately. In 1948, he suffered a shin injury after getting hit by 2 teammates throwing a ball to each other as hard as they could. Oops. It turned into an infected bone lining, and he ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks recovering. His season unfortunately ended with a 14-9 record and a 3.51 earned run average. 1949 and 1950 weren't much better for Branca as the bone infection settled in his shoulder, and he remembered not being able to throw as hard as he would have liked. Though he was 13-5 in 1949 and led the league in winning percentage, his ERA did jump another point to 4.39. In 1950, manager of the Dodgers, Bert Schotten, decided to use Branca out of the bullpen. Branca remembers the season as a waste and unfortunately saw the Dodgers lose the pennant to Philadelphia on the last day of the season. In 1951, the sun came out, and Branca was said to have been feeling much better and stronger after being able to throw in the bullpen all those days. The Dodgers were in first place majority of the year, and by the end of May, Branca was getting ready to make the first start of the season. By the end of August, his record stood at 12-5, and the Dodgers had a 13-game lead and looked to be on their way to the World Series. If you know the story, then you know how this goes. Unfortunately, the wheels fell off. The Dodgers had a very forgettable September and October. He started 6 games, all of which the Dodgers would end up losing, and his record quickly spun to 13-12. The Dodgers played a little over 500 ball from the middle of August to the end of the season. The worst news is that the rival New York Giants played amazing baseball, going 37-7 down the stretch, and by the last weekend of the season had caught the Dodgers. October 3rd, 1951, the last of a 3-game playoff for the National League pennant. The Giants had won Game 1, and the Dodgers had won Game 2. Game 3 stood as the Dodgers versus the Giants at the Polo Grounds. Both teams stood at 96-58 and 1 win away from a World Series against, you know them, the New York Yankees. Don Newcomb was on the mound for Brooklyn and had dominated the Giants lineup. Going into the 9th inning, Brooklyn was up 4-1 and looked to be on their way for a trip to the World Series. The Giants rallied off Newcomb and had runners in scoring position after hitting a couple singles and a double. Branca entered the game with the Dodgers up 4-2 and runners on second and third, 1 out, bottom of the 9th. As kids, this is the moment I think we all lived for as baseball fans, with the game in your hands and a chance to win it. I mean, storybook. He was set to face Bobby Thompson, the same Thompson that hit a game-winning homer off Branca in Game 1 of the series. Unfortunately, Brooklyn was left without many options as the other members of the bullpen were either battling injuries or dealing with exhaustion from pitching earlier in the series. First base was open, so he could have walked Thompson if he didn't want to face him. The problem was that future Hall of Famer Willie Mays was on deck and would bat with the bases loaded and 1 out. It's not really something you would want to deal with. I mean, especially with the season on the line, Branca chose to go after Thompson. He got 1 fastball by him, a 1 count. The second fastball crushed down the left field line and into the lower stands of the Polo Ground. 5-4, Giants win, National League champions. After the 1951 season, Branca was really never the same. He suffered a back injury in spring training in 1952 and only managed to make 16 appearances. He finished with a 4-2 record, and none of them came in the World Series against the Yankees that year. In 1953, Branca, still suffering from his back injury, only made a handful of starts before Detroit claimed him off waivers. He went 4-7 and had an ERA of almost 5. Approaching that career high of 7. He was released from Detroit in 1954, and it seemed like his career was all but over. He phoned a call to the Yankees to pitch batting practice. That's right, batting practice. Casey Stengel, manager of the Yankees, was impressed with Branca and decided to activate him. He went 1-0 in 5 games with the Yankees. In 1955, he went to spring training with the Minneapolis Millers, a minor league affiliate of the Giants. Unfortunately, he hurt his arm in a spring training start, but chose not to tell anybody in fear of getting cut from the team. I mean, can you really blame him? Unfortunately, he was released after bad outings in the rest of the spring. In 1956, he was invited to Old Timers Day at Yankee Stadium. Could you imagine getting invited to an Old Timers Day while still trying to keep your career alive in baseball? That's gotta hurt, man. Gotta hurt. While preparing for the Old Timers game, Branca had made a realization. His velocity had returned. he immediately phoned a call to Brooklyn and spent the last month of the season with the Dodgers. He made one appearance on September 7th, allowing 1 hit, walking 2, and striking out 2. In 1957, he went back to spring training with the Dodgers, but he did not make the team. The Los Angeles Angels of the Pacific League offered him the managing job, which Branca went and declined. That would be the end of his career in baseball. He finished with an 88-68 record and pitched in over 300 games. Not bad, but not really Hall of Fame worthy. Later in life, he and Bobby Thomson, who hit the home run that day, became friends and even made media appearances together. That was until a rumor became active that the Giants were stealing signs, and Thomson knew exactly what pitch he was getting when he hit the shot heard around the world. Thomson acknowledged that he knew the signs during the first at-bat of the game, but denied knowing in the last at-bat in which he hit the home run. Seems a little fishy. Branca made it known that he did not believe Thomson's denials at all and remained convinced that Thomson knew of the fastball. Branca ran the baseball assistants team for 17 years and was inducted into the National Italian-American Sports Hall of Fame. His son-in-law is actually former baseball player Bobby Valentine, who is better known for his time as a manager. If memory serves me right, Bobby Valentine was the manager of the Mets who threw on the fake mustache after getting ejected. Pretty memorable. Ralph passed away on November 23rd of 2016 in a nursing home in Rye Brook, New York at the age of 90. He was the last living member of the 1947 Dodgers at the time. He was interred at the Gates of Heaven Cemetery in Section 26. Adjacent to him is George Herman, you know him as Babe Ruth, and Billy Martin. Thank you so very much for tuning into this episode of Behind the Scenes on Ralph Branca, a man who is known for being on the opposite side of history, but not really known for being one of the players to stand alongside Jackie Robinson during a time where change was not immediately accepted and was even fought against. Branca should always be remembered for what he did for the game and not just for the home run that he gave up on that fateful day. Special thank you to Society for American Baseball Research writer Paul Hirsch and Baseball Reference for the information that was used in this video. My name is Jay, and I will see you all in the next episode. Cheers.